Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Space for Life. This is my dream episode that I get to record today with new friend Katherine Wolf. I am so excited to have her on board, not only because I just get to talk with her and share this conversation, but because the message of what she has to share and who she is just so critical in our broken world that's filled with so much suffering. So I am so excited to have Katherine aboard. She is a stroke survivor, author of 3 books, the latest of which is just one of my favorites, Treasures in the Dark, 90 Reflections on Suffering. And she is also a podcaster herself, the Good Hard Story podcast, which is fantastic. You have to tune into that right after we do this. And she is also the co-founder with her husband of Hope Heals Camps and Men Coffee, which we will get to hear more about. So she has her hands full. And what I love about it is that she has her hands full kind of just right in the midst of really so much of a difficult life in so many ways. And what I love is not so much what she's done in the midst of difficult circumstances, but who she is in the midst of difficult circumstances. We have so much to learn from, I think, in our conversation, and it's been one that I've been looking forward to a long time. When I started podcasting now, actually 7 years ago, Katherine, I created a little dream list of people that I would love to have on board, and you are way up on the top of a dream list, and I just hope for an opportunity at some point that our paths would cross. And so this Porch Lights event, which is coming right around the corner from us on April 30th at 7 p.m. in Richmond, Virginia, was the chance for me to get to connect with you. So, so excited on having you aboard, Katherine.
I know. I'm so grateful to talk to you, and I will be excited to be in Richmond next month.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping this is going to come out, this podcast, right around April 16th. And I hope there still will be a few tickets left. But
yes, I bet there will. And I'm sure we can slip people in.
Oh, good. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're in the Richmond area, go to porchlights.net and sign up for your tickets right away. They were very gracious, even though it's kind of a women's-led Christian ministry, to not require that I have to wear a dress in order to come hear you myself.
Oh, I didn't know that. You're coming. Wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
I love events where men are also there. Men need to hear and learn and grow, maybe even more than women. I'm just kidding.
I think you're right.
Similar as we women do. So I like that.
Well, it's going to be a phenomenal event at Hope Church. And I know so many of our friends are just so excited that you're coming and just looking forward to hearing you. And I'll sneak up and get to meet you face to face. So that will be great.
I can't wait. I'm excited to be there.
Yeah. Well, Katherine, so many people I know all about you and about your podcast and about your book, but I also know there's still a few people who don't know about you.
Just a few.
A few and your story. So I'd love to kind of just begin by having you tell your story and go back as far as you want, tell whatever parts you want, but it's an amazing story. So I'd love to just hear it again myself.
Oh, well, thank you, Tommy. It is an absolutely amazing story, and it is still unfolding. And praise God, it's still a good, hard story that God is writing. And in a few moments, I'll just say this, that I as a perfectly, typically able-bodied 26-year-old who just had a baby 6 months before, was happily married for 3 years prior, new young mother, and out of nowhere had a massive brainstem stroke and very nearly died. I had had a birth defect called an AVM, arterial venous malformation, rupture in my brainstem. And when it ruptured, it caused the massive brainstem stroke that would put me into 16 hours of micro brain surgery,
Oh my goodness.
then 40 days on life support at ICU, and then nearly 2 years in hospitals, relearning to eat, speak, walk. And as you can see today, I'm not sure if listeners are able to see, my face is paralyzed. I am and pretty impaired today. I can no longer drive a car. I walk very limitedly unassisted. I use a wheelchair mostly. And I have many, many other significant health issues now. That actually, it's really interesting to consider that these deficits are all a part of what saved me. That in fact, the deep wounding that Dr. Gonzalez had to do in order to sustain my life are in fact the reason that I'm here today. That it says in Jeremiah that there is wounding and there can be healing. And that's not separate. That part of my deep wounds are the reason that I'm here today. So I can't hate my wounds because they brought me here.
You know, God has used your wounding in amazing ways. And, you know, I know of so many people that have gone through really difficult things, not as difficult as what you're talking about. And they come out on the other side with, you know, a message of hope. And it's amazing. But your message of hope is still so in the midst of the difficulty. And I feel like it's what gives such power and credibility to, you know, who you are and what you have to say. Life is still not easy.
Right. Thank you for saying that. Yes, I wanted to believe at various points earlier in my life that, you know, you would suffer something awful. And then if you live to tell, you get a pass to never go through anything hard again.
Yeah.
And the Lord has allowed me to open my eyes to the reality that there is no quota on suffering this side of heaven. And in fact, it's so interesting. I used to read Romans 5:3, where it says that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, hope. Hope will not put us to shame. I read that as I won't be put to shame. I checked the suffering box. Now I'm okay.
Yeah.
And now I think I much more accurately read that verse and recognize that suffering ultimately will not put us to shame so that we can go through the cycle again, but we're built different and fortified because of what we've suffered to suffer. And it's a cycle that we're in this side of heaven. And the cycle, honestly, we are fueled and fortified from the suffering to do it well. And we're built. And I think that's actually more accurate understanding.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think of the 2 Corinthians where it says outwardly we are wasting away, but inwardly we've been renewed. And those do, in many ways, go hand in hand. And whether it's something catastrophic like what you've experienced, or just the ordinary wasting away and the trials and the sufferings, those things go on this side of heaven, as you said.
Absolutely. I love that 2 Corinthians 4 passage. And I love the thought that the light and temporary nature of
Yes.
our suffering is actually producing something that we'll only understand one day. And it's so
Yeah.
complicated, but I really love how that passage goes on to say, before it, above it, that we are hard pressed but not crushed, and
Yes.
perplexed but not in despair, persecuted but not abandoned. And I love this thought, like, the Lord's never left us, and this life is temporary. So it's
Mhm.
cool to think the body is wasting away. The body
Yeah.
is, they say, those of us in the disability population, I guess, say that to an able-bodied, typically currently able-bodied person, they are temporarily able-bodied, because the
Yeah.
reality is, for all of us humans, the reality is at some point in life, we likely will become disabled to some degree.
Sure.
Aging 100%. But through many, many issues, and with technology progressing and people living longer and surviving different things, there is much more disability happening in this life. So I think we do need to know how to live well with our various disabilities.
Sure. And I think you do just such an amazing job of, I think, bringing to light that we're all disabled in some ways. Yes, some it appear on the exterior,
Right.
but often it's the interior disabilities that wreak more havoc, in some senses than the exterior ones.
Absolutely. Yes. Said another way, I talk a whole lot about invisible wheelchairs, that
Mm,
we've all got invisible. Some of us have physical ones, but all of us have many invisible wheelchairs that no one else knows what
yeah.
we're going through, the shame we feel, the guilt, the everything. Just the
Ah,
sins come into the scene in all of our lives. We live in a broken world where horrible things have happened, and
yeah.
honestly will keep happening, and the memories can be haunting, and we're not okay.
Well, I think again, what I think is so inspirational is for people to hear what you've gone through, 2 years of just recovery to learn how to eat, the very, very most basic with a new child, all of that. I think that for you to quote, that 2 Corinthians and say we're hard pressed but not crushed, that so many people can hear that and say, well, if she's not crushed,
Right.
then maybe in my suffering, maybe there's a way to see it differently. And you offer such a lens in Treasures in the Dark and in your podcast and the guests you have on your podcast to understand that hard doesn't mean that it's not good.
Well, exactly, Tommy. I think so many times we, as Westerners in our world today, and unfortunately, I think in Christian context, we can
Mhm.
really misunderstand the word good and think, yeah, that it just means that life can only be good if things are going well for us, and if we're getting the goodies, and that's the good life. And I think loss can leave space for the Lord to replace the counterfeit versions of good with his true goodness. And when you recognize his true goodness, you don't want the knockoff, you don't want the counterfeit, but instead more and more recognizing what the truly good things of God actually are. And recognizing we already have that when we know Jesus. When we know Jesus,
Yeah.
the good things are here and are not being withheld ever, as it says in Psalm 84:11, that no good thing has he withheld from those walking uprightly with him. And I can decidedly say no good thing has been withheld in this story.
Well, I couldn't agree, and I just love the framing of it all. You wouldn't have any way of knowing. Our family went through a really hard, long journey of cancer with my daughter. She died just a little over 9 years ago after a 6-year battle with cancer. And one of the things during that time that I had plastered across the top of my computer was from Psalm 27, for I'm convinced that I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And I think we came to understand that God brought his goodness even in the midst of what was just horrific for us. And God continued to redeem in us and around and through us, even through that, incredibly difficult time. So you're so right. Redefining the goodness of God is so much about what the growth of faith is.
Tommy, well, I am firstly so very, very sorry for your tremendous loss. How old was your daughter?
She was 26 when she died.
She was 26, which I'm sure it's significant and not lost on you that I was 26 when I very, very nearly died. I had just turned 26 years old, so I was your daughter's age. And
Well, there's something about those hard things coming to people at a time that you imagine to be their brightest and best that just seems that much more difficult to understand. And we don't understand these things.
No, we don't. And it feels cruel. God feels so cruel because how can he be good and sovereign at the very same time? How is that possible when you see stuff like what we've lived through? And and yet somehow, I used to feel a lot of shame and just a lot of very complicated emotions when I would talk to the parent of a child who died, or the spouse of the widower of a man who lost his young wife, and particularly if they were around my age, which your daughter was.
Sure.
And I sit here with zero shame in this moment. The Lord really delivered me through that because I now recognize, and this was in a conversation years ago with a widower, I felt shame for a moment when he said his wife died, and the Lord just put a little message in my head. I feel like, and I recognized, but I am here to tell him that he's going to be okay in his suffering because I am. And it was an entire reframing moment for that widower telling me his wife died. Instead of me feeling guilt that I did not die, I felt a charge, a calling to tell him, your suffering is not the end of your story. And it's a very different, beautiful place the Lord had me land.
I love that. And your message and who you are is such an amazing message of hope, which it's not, of course, by accident that you named your camps Hope Heals.
Right.
Because you're offering hope to people in the hardest of circumstances. And, it's funny how you can go through something that is really difficult, and then within a short amount of time come across other people who are going through things you can't even imagine.
Oh,
It's just, there's so much out there.
oh, it's very overwhelming, and it's very holy. It's a sacred place to
Yeah.
live. But I've kind of become a bit of a poster child for suffering. So people in the lives of others suffering will find me and seek me out. And
Yeah.
I spend my days hearing some of the hardest stories this side of,
Yeah.
the hardest stories on earth. And it's a weird deal. It's a beautiful, holy, complicated reality, and nobody is unscathed from this life, and that's
No.
the
It's an
line.
incredible burden and a privilege at the same time.
Absolutely, it is. It's
Yeah.
calling.
Yeah. Well, I have so much enjoyed your book, Treasures in the Dark. And
Thank you.
I love it. It's 90 reflections, but it's not what I experienced as your typical compilation of reflections, in
Yeah,
that each message had so much depth and substance to it, so much to offer.
I'm saying yes to that. You're really sweet to say that, but that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm just saying yes. It's not like typical devotional, because you
No.
can read it straight through if you want.
Right. No, it's really beautifully done. I'd love to just hear. I love the title Treasures in the Dark, and I have a suspicion maybe where it came from, but I'd love to hear just how the book came about.
Absolutely. So, Treasures in the Dark is no doubt based on a passage that has encouraged me for many years post stroke, and that's Isaiah 45:3, where the Lord says, I will give you hidden treasure in the darkness, riches stored in secret places, so you may know that I am God, the God of Israel, the God who summons you by name.
Mm.
And I felt, for so many reasons, like that passage beautifully just comforts the soul, that there is actually treasure in the deep darkness in our stories. And I know for me, I want to pick up that treasure and cherish it and carry it with me for the rest of my life and let it inform how I live. Because honestly, the treasure's all you got in the darkness. You
Yeah.
might as well get it and not waste it. I'm sure, Tommy, you would attest to this, that my pain has been too precious to waste. I'm sure
Yeah.
you would say the same thing, that I long to steward this story well because of how awful it's been. I'm sure
Yeah.
you could say the very same thing, that there is the sense of which I want to champion, I want to leverage my life for what matters most, and recognize that the pain and suffering is actually what's going to move the needle on moving people towards Jesus, because
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see people suffer well.
Well, it's so true, and we're still so prone to think of the treasures as coming after the dark instead of in the dark. And
Yeah,
I love one of the things you wrote. I've kind of just pulled a few things
sure.
particularly loved. You wrote at one point, entry 21, until my stroke, I understood suffering as something to be avoided at all costs. If I
Right,
couldn't avoid it, then I should get through it as quickly as possible and
right,
pretend it never happened. No one ever told me that my pain could be the most powerful and positive agent of change in my life if I chose to let it be.
right.
Mm.
No, nobody ever said that in Sunday school. I didn't hear that message much, and yet that is 100% true. True,
Yeah.
suffering is this profound teacher. It's your tutor. It changes you, and change is not necessarily bad when it makes you more like Jesus.
Yeah. And in some ways, I've asked myself the question, how does suffering do that? And I can't always put my finger on why it seems to have this transformative power about it. It's not like something I can always give exact words to or measure to. I just know that, I'm a different person as a result of it. And, that doesn't change how hard it is.
Yeah, I agree. I can't put it into words exactly, but I know that there is a clarity and this, it's almost like you see when you suffer really profound loss, there is a sense of there's a clarity that is not so distracted by the world, and you are so close to the Creator. You're so close to the Lord that you almost miss it when the season of deep suffering passes, because you recognize, oh, I was so dependent on the Lord and he was so vibrant and real to me. Everything was so clear and not crowded. And that seems to be what I hear the most frequently from people who've suffered profoundly, is that there's this bizarre clarity about their faith that emerges.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It right sizes everything. All of a sudden you realize other things are small and you realize what is important. And somehow in the midst of suffering, which God could change in some fashion, we're drawn closer to him and to a goodness that in some way transcends the suffering, even though it doesn't lessen the suffering.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And you begin to redefine everything in your life. And it shakes things up in a way that you would not change, because you're like, whoa, I see things totally differently. And part of that is perspective, of course, is when you've been through hell on earth, you are you're aware of how great things are when they're not hell on earth anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I want to another kind of just great little aha in your book. You wrote a passage called "A Prayer for Healing," and it's such a recasting of the sense of healing. But you talk about how true healing kind of leaves you a changed person, and yet so many people are looking for healing that just returns them back to where they started. So you wrote, healing rarely returns us to the condition in which we started. I shifted my focus to the disabilities of my heart. Finally, he said, it's never too late to push against your old definition of healing.
Absolutely.
And wow, I think of so many people I know that are so hungry, understandably, for healing, that these words are hard in a sense, but there's such beautiful truth in them too.
There is, and what people so often say they want healing for is actually wanting a cure. They want to be cured from what's wrong with their physical body. But if you look at John 9 in the Bible, at the blind man was healed because he could see again. But that actually was not healing. He was cured, I would argue. When he was healed is later in that passage when he met Jesus, that actually the curing of his eyesight did not solve any of his problems, actually. But when he met Jesus, the healing of the soul was what he needed all along. So I completely stand by that. There's that hard truth that healing doesn't have anything to do with physical.
Oh, wow. That's, and how deeply we need that, those invisible wheelchairs to be pulled out. We need, that's where the healing really needs to happen.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you talk about hope also in the book, that, hope is more than a feeling. It's a practice. And what I think so many people are drawn to with you is the expressiveness of your hope. And yet you as more than anybody realize that is a byproduct of practice, which is perhaps difficult. I'd love to know kind of how do you practice hope?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love that you are saying that. And I always like to say, when anybody is listening to me or knows me, I worry that my joyful and exuberant personality can make people believe this is entirely unrelatable, or she's just nuts and out of touch, or what's going on there. But no, I do have all the emotions. I feel sadness and sorrow and loss. Absolutely. There is actually a low-grade sorrow that has remained in me ever since this all happened. And I think it will be lifelong. And I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's not the answer to your question. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so relatable. It's so real. Yeah. And to answer your question about the practice of hope, which I love that you said it that way. And I will tell you this, that in my very, very worst and lowest moments after the stroke, before I could eat, speak, or walk, the feeling of hope failed me, for sure. The feeling of hope failed me. But the practice of hope carried me through. So I didn't feel hopeful. No. But I knew too much of the true hope. I was kept. The habit of hope is where I landed. The practicing of hope kept me grounded. And so much of that hope was the truth of God. It was the truth of Scripture. It was who I knew God to be in the light was still true in the dark. And I saw that and recognized the goodness of God is still here even now. I can't turn away what I know to be true.
And I love that, because you're not talking about, just positive thinking. You're talking about latching on to what is true, even when you can't see it and even when you can't feel it.
Absolutely. And it was almost, Tommy, as if through so much of my ordeal, the community, the body of Christ around me was so profoundly holding me up that it was almost like I had this boost of, we're going to believe for you for now, and you're going to start going. We are going to literally carry you to the foot of the cross. And it was stunning.
I just had a guest on just a few weeks ago, Steve Richley, who's a pastor out in Oregon that had a catastrophic motorcycle accident that left him largely paralyzed. He had a slow recovery, but he talked so much in that podcast about being lifted up by his friends. And one of the things that I was really wanted to get your thoughts on, there's been a verse, some friends of mine, Patricia Clark and J.G. Carter and I taught on the book of Philippians, and the verse that stood out in the midst of it all, which is so perfect right around this Easter time, is I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow to attain to the resurrection of the dead. But what grabbed me the most is that phrase, the fellowship of his sufferings. And your husband, Jay, your family, a support network, I think as strong as your faith is, we are buoyed. There is a fellowship of suffering, which to me, the Hope Heals camps and everything, it celebrates that fellowship of sufferings. I don't know if that's just standing out in my mind. I don't know if that's the
Oh
way
my
you think
gosh.
about it?
Absolutely. Well, that's it. Is that, you know, when we have other people with us, we can really survive some really horrific things.
Yeah.
Alone, I don't know if I could be here. I
Yeah.
don't know if I could do my life. But from the beginning, the people around me uplifting me has made this all bearable. And Hope Hills Camp, for instance, is celebrating the fact that a community exists that is not trying to cure you, that is not trying to do anything, but just let you belong and shout your worth while we're there and disrupt the idol, the deep idol that has become joy can only come in a pain free life. We don't do that. We celebrate that this is all a glorious rebellion. We get to have a joyous
Wow.
rebellion to all the darkness and do it together.
Gosh, that's so great. Well, some people aren't familiar with the Hope Hills camp.
Yeah.
I've heard about it, but tell people about it because it's an extraordinary venture.
It
Uh,
is. It's
yeah.
crazy. So wild. It's really just probably the very most beautiful thing in my whole life, outside of my children, among just the most beautiful gifts. It's unreal. We have a camp for families to attend where someone in the family has a physical disability and the entire family gets to come to camp totally for free. So it's pretty special. There are no age limits. So we have 6-month-old baby and 86-year-old people. There is no specific diagnosis. It's any and all diagnoses are welcome. There's so much exclusion in the disability community. So we have none.
Yeah.
Everybody's invited, regardless of what the diagnosis is. To date, we have over 170 different diagnoses. We have people coming currently from 45 different states and over 5 different countries in the 10 years we've had camp. It'll be 10 this summer, actually, 9 years of camp. And it's about radical belonging and belovedness. We think that is what it should be. It should have been about all along, that we will radically welcome you to the table, that you do, in fact, have a seat at the table. Everyone has a seat at this table. And I believe our job is to make space at the table and tell people they can come sit with us.
Oh, wow. That is so beautiful. And boy, I mean, I can't even, it's Hope Heals. I can't even imagine the healing of spirit that goes on in that kind of experience of radical belonging.
Oh, it's very special. I would say pretty much everybody who's ever been, I'm not kidding, has said it's life changing. It's just a game changer for both volunteers and campers. That it's a thin place. It's a foretaste of heaven.
Gosh, that is beautiful. And so you do that for
5 weeks in the
five
summer.
five weeks in the summer.
5 weeks this summer. Yeah, 1 week sessions each.
And volunteers come at their own cost to just come be a part
Yes,
and
I know.
celebrate.
Nobody can believe it. In the secular world, there's no context for this. That the volunteer pays a fundraising minimum to come and to serve. It's tuition. It's nuts.
And you've got a waiting list for that.
What we do is it's otherworldly. It's
I love
truly
it. Yeah, just
kingdom.
such a sign that it's otherworldly. That typical. Like Jesus, he turns everything upside down.
I love the subversive nature of Jesus, that he does things differently. He has a third way. And I think that's what this camp is it's our subversive response to all the darkness.
Well, there might be some people listening that would like to know more about the Hope Heals camps. I usually do this at like the end of a podcast, but it seems like it should be now. How do people connect in with you, like the Hope Heals camps and
Absolutely.
Men Coffee and stuff?
Yeah. Well, if you live in Atlanta, come to the coffee shop, Mend, MEND Coffee.
Okay.
It's in Buckhead, and it's amazing. And half of our staff is living with physical disabilities, which is all cognitive disabilities. And it's glorious. And that's sort of our brick and mortar manifestation of the camp community. And the camp
Right.
in Northwest Alabama, people travel from all over the country to come. And if interested, everything is on our website. So go to Hope Heals, hopeheals.com for more information on everything.
Man, that is fantastic. Well, how do you do all of these things that you're doing? I mean, you're traveling all over the country. I mean, it exhausts me just hearing all of the things that you and Jay are about.
Firstly, I am beyond not alone doing anything. So it would be such a myth to think that Katherine is a one-woman show. My husband is amazing and does everything. He drives me everywhere. So he's my chauffeur for life. And I mean, everything, truly does everything. And so I have him, and then I have a whole team. Hope Heals, we have 12 teammates. So there's a whole lot of us working on everything. For instance, the Treasures in the Dark book that you've referenced, my sister-in-law wrote that with me. So Alex is just an incredible writer, and we partnered on that book. And we have a director of camp and many people, including several family friends of yours, I hear are on our board of directors, like Rob Metcalf and Amy W. Becker, and are a part of making this whole operation happen. So anyway, it's definitely not me alone. But with that said, I do have an unusual capacity for engaging a whole lot of things, because I think what has happened is that the Lord has opened me wide open from the tragedy, the suffering, the loss. And as the psalmist writes, in my despair, the Lord has enlarged me. And I feel like that.
Wow, I love that.
My capacity has changed because of what's happened to me. I recognize that I have a large capacity to hold and do things, and I get to be a part of doing a whole lot of amazing things, and he will supply every need. And greater is he in me than he who is in the world. And his divine power has given me everything I need for this life and for this calling. And so I think I have just had a taste of it's a go time. It's time for the Lord to use this story. And I long to be a willing vessel.
Yeah. Well, I love your podcast, The Good Heart Story podcast. It's just great, amazing guest. And, as much as the guests are always great, I always want to hear what you have to say in the midst of it. So it's just a phenomenal podcast to just be another sounding board for, this story that good and hard can coexist at the same time and both be true.
Absolutely, Tommy. That is, of all the things I've learned in these last 17, nearly 18 years since I had the stroke. I'm 44 now. So since I was 26 years old and this happened, I think above all would be that idea that the good and the hard coexist. They are not mutually exclusive, that they are in one. They're one, and they coexist so well.
It's such a beautiful, necessary countercultural message.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking both of your time, but there is a question. I have so many friends that are going through really difficult times, and I think one of the things that just even from our own experience that accentuates, magnifies suffering is uncertainty. Uncertainty whether it will ever end, uncertainty of whether it will get worse, uncertainty of the future of the suffering that we're going through now. And I think with your story, one of the things I'm aware of is that there's no certainty, for you. And I'd love just for you to share for a moment, how do you deal with that uncertain place that you live in virtually all the time?
Well, what's immediately coming to mind is I read The Hiding Place as a child, and Corrie ten Boom wrote either in The Hiding Place or somewhere else that I read years ago, and it marked me that I can trust an unknown future to a known God. And I think that's impacted me very deeply is the I know the Lord. I know of his faithfulness, so I can trust an unknown future to him. And I think that's really marked me. And Corrie ten Boom is one of my absolute obsessions in this world. She's such a hero, and that has been since I read that book when I was 12. And I think that's part of it. I will tell you, though, that I have wrestled and wrestled with the uncertainty and the what ifs of what if I would have done differently, or what, just the anxiety of what could have been and isn't, along with the future uncertainty, all of it. And I recognize that when asking the question, what if, that's completely ridiculous to do. Or worrying about the future would be in this category, actually. That the what if question is completely wrong because it doesn't matter. It's not what is. What is the question to be asked, because what is in the story is all we actually have. So anxiety about what we should have done or anxiety about what the future holds, that's not it. That's just going to leave you riddled with all the terrorizing anxiety. What we are all called to do is radically accept the story right in front of our nose and live that so well, recognizing God's in that moment, the one right in front of us. And this is your story. And when you wake up to radically accepting the story that God is writing, you aren't looking to the future or the past. No, you're focused on this is the right here, right in front of my nose, if I have eyes to see it.
That's very profound. I can only imagine, like the habit and practice of hope, that takes a discipline of mind that you have to continually repeat to yourself, because as true as it is, that's a hard thing, I'm sure, to hang on to
It
in the moment.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
You have to train your mind.
You have to
100%.
train your mind.
You have to train your head and your heart to say, "I am not living towards feelings. I'm not
Mm,
living into the mere feeling." Feelings can be important indicators, absolutely, of what's going on, but I'm living by what I believe to be true.
mm.
And I'm radically accepting my real life because I trust that the one who gave me this life and the author of my story is going to show up right here, right now with me in it.
I love that. Trusting the unknown future to the known God.
Yeah,
That's a powerful statement. I'm going to put that down somewhere because that's one to hang on to.
and it is one to hang on to. It's Corey ten Boom and not Catherine Wolf, but
Yeah,
you need to write that one down.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that is great. Well, I'm so excited to get to meet you face to face in Richmond, and I think that everybody's listening is just going to get a sense that these are the truths, which are not necessarily the seen truths that we need to lean into and that we need to hear more of. And I know Richmond is blessed to have you at Porch Lights event. Again, April 30th is the event. And I'm just so glad that you're going to come and experience hopefully some fantastic Richmond hospitality.
Oh, I cannot wait. I've been to Virginia many, many times in my life, but I've never, I don't think, been to Richmond. It's so strange. I've been all over the state, I feel like, but never Richmond. So I'm excited to be there.
Well, it's great. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Any last thoughts to kind of share? Just
Oh my goodness,
in your
Tommy,
heart?
don't ask me that because I could talk for 3 hours on your podcast. So
Oh, I could talk to you for 3 hours easily.
it would be difficult to nail it down, but I would love to speak to your listener if you would like.
Oh, absolutely. You know, uh, the good hard story. Uh, any experiences recently that have just accentuated that for
Uh,
you?
you know what, Tommy? I will tell your listener that yes, I've had many, many conversations with many deep suffering souls, both on the podcast and throughout these years with Hope Heals Ministries. And there is so much hard and sad and horrific atrocities that we've suffered in this life. So many of us have been through deep, profound loss and such a disorientation from
Mm,
all the pain. And we want relief. We want deep, real relief. And I believe God gives that absolutely. But what I know to be true is that relief can come in many, many forms. If we're only holding out for a mere physical healing, as we talked about, we're missing it. That listener, open your eyes to the reality that God's story for your life is the plan A, whatever it looks like. And you get to take responsibility for the life God has entrusted you with while you are on earth. And you get to live it really well for His glory. And I think what I would want to tell any listener to your podcast is that God has given you capacity to handle whatever you are walking through. Not because you're so awesome and you can handle it. No, because He handles it through you, being a willing vessel to step into whatever mess you are in with confidence that He will show up for you again and again and again, because He always will.
mm. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think That's a great word for us to close on. Thank you, Katherine. This has just been a real honor for me and a privilege to get to spend some time with you, in a sense, one-on-one like this and talk. It's just such a joy.
It is such a joy for me, Tommy, and I can't wait to hug your neck in person and meet your sweet wife who's coming to Hope Hills Camp. It's just
she's looking forward to it too. So we will be seeing you in a few weeks, and God bless all the things you're doing. So thanks everybody for being on this episode. This is one we're going to remember for a while, and I'm just so glad you're able to join. Please share this podcast. We all know so many people that need to hear the truth around good and hard going together. And Katherine, you're just a witness in who you are to that truth.
You are so kind, Tommy. So kind. That is the truth, isn't it? I think what we are all called to do is share healing hope with hurting people, all of us. And you're no doubt doing that through this podcast. So keep going. Can't wait to meet you.
Very good. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will be back soon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.